Welcome, everyone. It's amazing to be here representing the University of Virginia. It's been 4 years of diligent, hard, methodical, intentional, and progressional work to develop a quality football program. It's gratifying to see sequential changes, a pattern of unbroken growth, and smiles on a daily basis at our football facility. I'm really proud to be associated with this team, this group of young people, what they've accomplished and what they've overcome to reach this stage. While this stage is not the end by any means, it certainly is a different chapter, a different opportunity, and a different setting for us to continue to grow, learn, and expand our program. We're thrilled to be able to measure and compete against one of the premier programs in college football. And I think Coach Sweeney's done a remarkable job not only reaching the pinnacle, but remaining there. And what I think we all understand, and maybe not, and maybe it hasn't been documented quite enough, is how hard it is to stay there once you're there. And so I think Clemson has done a really nice job of maintaining once they've reached a certain level and an elite level of achievement. I look forward to everything about this game. I've enjoyed the preparation as it's advanced our program. And again, I'm thrilled to be the head coach at the University of Virginia, all that it represents, the academic focus, the type of young people that we bring, and the ability to demonstrate what kind of football we're able to play.
Okay, questions, raise your hand. Let us get the mic to you. Our first question is in the front row, checkered shirt.
Yes, Doug Dowdy with the Roanoke Times. Have you ever had a quarterback who had as many touches as Perkins does in terms of, obviously, rushing attempts and passes?
We were on a trajectory similar when I was the coach at Brigham Young University with a quarterback named Taysom Hill. Taysom's seasons became shortened because of injury, so it didn't come to fruition, the same volume we would have hoped it would. But Bryce has been the first quarterback with the volume of touches through the air, on the ground, and really the amount of offense that he is responsible for. The path was started again at Brigham Young with Taysom. The quarterback and the sustainability wasn't or didn't manifest, so Bryce is really the most and best that we've had.
Again, first row.
David Teal with the Daily Press. Bronco, at least according to the stats, Juwan Briggs did not play against Virginia Tech. Was there a reason for that, and do you expect him back this week?
He'll play, yeah, and probably the stats were off, so there wasn't any reason that he shouldn't have been listed, and there's no issues with him.
Front row to our right.
Hey, Coach. David Hood with TigerNet. Dabo was very complimentary of you this week and almost seemed to think that the two programs, from a culture standpoint, kind of mirror each other and said that he could see that in you from the beginning. How important is that to not only have the football aspect of it, but the football or the culture aspect? And do you see the similarity between the two programs?
Addressing the question maybe with most relevance first, I believe that culture precedes performance. We spent an entire year, our first year, our 2-10 season, of doing nothing other than try to establish a culture that would gain some kind of traction. An analogy of planting seeds is fairly accurate, but really trying to push roots to gain something to build from, which really had little to do with football. I don't think, we'll put it this way, I have no interest in building a program nor being involved with college football, period, unless it represents something more than football. And with that genuine and authentic belief, then it becomes something more than football, which is cultural. And then there's relationships that can be formed based on depth and principle that yield a much different level of satisfaction and happiness when success on the field does actually catch up to it. And so I believe that each coach, within his own principles and his own personality, if they do it really well and intentionally and authentically, then there becomes an identity formed with that, and it seems to me that Clemson has done that. as well. In comparing the two programs, I can't say how similar, but I do think the focus culturally has been emphasized similarly and is manifest similarly, other than Clemson certainly is farther ahead and has reached a different level in terms of exposure and sustainability, while we're becoming. I would say we're at a different stage.
Second row.
Hey, Bronco, Will Vanderbilt with the Clemson Insider. Wanted to ask you about Isaiah Simmons, and when you turn on the film, your first thoughts of him, and then how different is he compared to maybe most defenders you go up against?
Well, when I turn on Clemson film, there's a lot of players that are really good, and just the sheer volume of capability by number is something Clemson's done a really nice job of. The talent selection process, certainly the metrics they're looking for, but then the ability to attract that many and maintain that many, keeping those kind of quality players happy, because everyone wants to play. Playing's more fun than watching. When you become an elite player, as he is, then schematically there are things that certainly you have to do to account. However, there's enough other quality players on the field where if you put undue attention on any one particular player, the trade-off really doesn't warrant it because someone else is very capable. But I've been impressed.
Second row right in front of you, Coach.
Anna Hickey, 24/7 Sports. How often have teams spied Perkins this year, and do you expect Clemson to do a degree of that tomorrow?
Well, with the volume of offense that he's accounted for with us, it's almost every week, and rightly so. So most teams' approach is to have someone else be responsible for touchdowns or yardage than him, and our intent is just the opposite. And so we've been able to have enough success, especially the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season, as our offense has gained its footing, has yielded different points, yardage, and production, finishing really in the ACC second in scoring, but first in time of possession. And that's a really unique, those are two statistics that rarely blend, that you can lead in time of possession and be first or second in scoring. Most of the time it's one or the other, where you can hold on to the ball and the scoring will be minimal. Or you can score a lot, but your defense is on the field a lot because your tempo is so fast. So Bryce isn't all that we have, and the nature of offense is quite different in that we're able to hold on to the football a long time and score, which is ideal for our program at this time.
Front row.
Bronco, you use the term unbroken progression. That's not often how it works. How have you guys been able to keep the arc going, trending up?
Well, it has been the intent from the minute wheels touched down in Charlottesville when my family and I arrived, is to build a program that would not only rise to the top level of the ACC, but remain there, meaning consistent and sustainable. And there are all kinds of temptations to take shortcuts along the way. In the talent selection, in just the daily ethical operations of a program. And I think we see that through college sport and professional sport, or maybe any business, anything that's competitive. I don't have any interest in that. I just wanted something foundational that then could be built upon and measured. And easily in my job and in the world of college athletics, wins are the way that happens. That's not the only thing that's sustainable, but that's the way it's usually measured. And so to go from 2, the next year's team was just framed, what will you do to add upon the 2? And they made it to postseason, just barely. And then the next team had the same framing from me, what will you do to add upon that? And then there were 8 wins and a bowl victory. And the next team had the same framing from me, what will you do to add upon that? And so now, this year, we had beaten a few ACC opponents that we hadn't beaten yet. We're at the ACC Championship game in just year 4. And I think that's fairly remarkable. While there are very few programs that might have climbed to a conference title sooner than that, I'm not sure they've done it as methodically and consistently in thoughts of sustaining, and as intentionally. And so I've been proud of them for that, knowing that We don't view just arriving here as the finish. We've come to compete and play our best football, and so this class and this program still would like to accomplish more in framing what it would be like for the next team to raise the bar at even higher level. But we do expect each successive group to do something that the others haven't done. And as the air starts to be squeezed out, someone that's an English major could help me with that. It becomes more challenging but more fulfilling. And that's really fun as a head coach.
Front row to our right.
Jeff White, VirginiaSports.com. None of your guys has ever played against Clemson, but most of your team was here in the stadium for the Belk Bowl last year. All things being equal, would you rather compete in a setting you're familiar with, or does that not matter in a game like this?
No, I think it does matter because, right, so long-term memory is facilitated by a number of things. One of them is a significant emotional experience. So I just walked out on the field and I felt good because it was associated with our win over South Carolina, and that's a positive thing, and it adds a level of confidence and takes away some of the unpredictability. Now, we weren't playing Clemson. This is a different opponent. I've never coached against Clemson, nor has our team played. But at least the setting is one less unknown before we play the game, and that's a good starting point.
Ken, front row to our left.
Not having your BYU bio handy, have you had teams in conference championships before?
So, man, back in the days when I was in the Mountain West Conference, there wasn't a conference championship. The conference wasn't big enough. The different realignments hadn't happened. And so the 6 years together with the other two top teams, which were the University of Utah and TCU, at Brigham Young, we won it twice. Utah won it twice, and TCU won it twice in that 6-year span. And then they both split and went off to different conferences. And then we were independent, and obviously there was no conference championship. So this is my first conference championship game, not first conference championship. But I like the format, and wow, do I like the extra practice. That 1 week extra, we'll take every one of those days we can get in terms of building a program. And that kind of caught me off guard as to how valuable that would be, and how much fun it is just to be with my team one more week.
Second row to our right.
Hey, Chris Mendenhall, Chris Heidel from Herbertson Radio in Baltimore. When did you know you have a great? When did you know you have a great team this year? After the two losses, the one against Miami, or did you know, after Louisville, you have a great team that could rally around and get back to here?
That's a great question. I think greatness is defined in a lot of different ways. I knew I had a great team, and I've known I've had a great team just by being with them every morning. We practice early. Most of our players are in the building between 5:30 and 5:45. Their resilience, their countenance, their body language on a daily basis, and their resilience let me know they could be great on the field. I already knew they were great off. I think everyone else is just now starting to see. And I'm not even quite sure, truly understand what it's been like over 4 years of building a program at the University of Virginia. I'm not sure that coverage is quite deep enough yet. It has been very challenging, and that they've been part of that, I would have considered them great even before they played this year. They're just happening to play in a manner now that represents how difficult the challenge they've overcome has been.
Front row.
Bronco, after that first year when you realized things were a little more challenging than you expected, did you think you could possibly get this far in this shortest time span? How far ahead of schedule are you, and how much did Bryce Perkins advance that?
When I was hired as the coach at the University of Virginia, Craig Littlepage and John Oliver were the athletic administrations at that time. And at that point, I remember making a statement that the fastest I thought it could be done was 4 years, and it be sustainable and consistent and have a chance to be lasting. I had hoped it could be done in 3. I didn't say that, but internally I had hoped. After seeing year 1, I knew it wasn't going to be 3. It would be a minimum of 4. And I just, and someone else I'm sure can do it faster or better. But in measuring my own capability, my staff's capability, what I saw as the existing metrics and points of reference in that program, that's what I thought. And Bryce Perkins, we're not here without Bryce Perkins in this time frame. Now, that was an intentional choice. We knew we had to have a quarterback that was dynamic, that could run and throw to make up for a talent deficit elsewhere. If we were to have been conventional, every other player would have had to perform at a conventional level in comparison to our opponents. We needed at least one player that was capable of helping others raise their play by what the demands of their job was. And so, thank goodness. But intentionally, we found Bryce, and he needed us. Not many were interested in him. And we needed him. So it's been a great fit.
Second row.
Coach Trevor Groves, Tigers.com. I'm sure Bryce Hall is loving every minute of this run that you've had, but it's got to be tough for him to watch from the sidelines tomorrow night. How tough was it to overcome his loss, and how much has he remained an influence for your team in your secondary, both on and off the field?
Well, the statistics play out really clearly. We were at the top of the league and in almost every category defensively prior to him getting hurt, and our pass defense currently ranks 11th in the ACC. You could just put because of Bryce Hall right next to that. We've had to adapt, overcome, and adjust schematically and leadership-wise to account for him. And we won't ever be able to compensate fully for him. However, he's become unofficially titled our assistant secondary coach. He's responsible for developing every new player that's out there. Our entire backup group of 5 defensive backs are all first years, which he's basically in charge of. He gives the speech, the pregame speech every week as well before the game, as he certainly can do that better than I. And it's a way as a team captain and someone that cares so much about our program that he can contribute. And he does a masterful job with that. So our success is still tied to him.
Front row.
Gary McDaniel, Clemson Sports News. Coach, when you look at Clemson, the obvious steps flashes off the page when you see them on film, dynamically, offensively. But what schematically steps off the page from those guys offensively when you look at them?
I would say simplicity. I think the most masterful coaches are the ones that keep asking the question, what don't we need? It's really easy based on the hours to keep adding things and to keep adding things, and let's do this, and let's do that, and let's do this. I think, and the very best coaches are the ones that we don't need this, we don't need this, but they have enough that complement, which means if, as a defensive coach, if you defend this, you already know the trade-off you're making, and you're giving up something else. And if within their scheme they have a complement to that trade-off, they make you pay. And Clemson does just that. And as soon as you shift balance to a different player, a different play, a different formation, they're going to make you pay immediately, and they have the players to do it. So I think simplicity is, it's refreshing to see, but they have the players and the coaching and the execution to make those trade-offs so clear that you know, and you just hope they don't see it when you adjust.
Standing by the wall.
Pete Yanity from WSPA TV. I know you've probably seen this scenario before, maybe from both sides. They're not only a very talented team, they're a very experienced team. They've been through this. Just about everyone on their roster now has been through this. You guys are the newcomers. Has there been a mental challenge for you and the staff this week to try to make sure your guys don't walk in the stadium like you did and maybe be wide-eyed and kind of coach them to this moment, so to speak?
They're so full of optimism and hope and excitement. I'm not getting in the way of that. This is a moment they've earned, and I don't intend to taper it. I intend to have it channeled into their assignments and position mastery, but their mindset is so pure in relation to excitement to play a college football game in a conference championship format. It's so refreshing in this day and age where conference championships in many cases are just now a warm-up for something else to come. Conference championships are why you play, in my opinion. Anything else comes after that. And so it's just refreshing, and I think it's healthy for college football.
Front row.
Bronco, you were very open after last season's disappointment against Virginia Tech that maybe you and Coach and I had gone a little conservative late
Yes.
in that game. Were there lessons learned there that you then use this season in terms of your offensive scheme?
Sure. Not only offensive scheme, but just game management strategy. Conventional wisdom is not, and conventional metrics aren't what's allowed us to get to the conference championship. Nor is it rarely what happens with under-resourced or underfunded businesses, armies, or sports teams, right? Convention with lack of resources or underfunded resources rarely match. Unconventional, usually atypical, innovative, that's the path that usually matches when you don't have as much. And so we've simply made an intent to do that more. Not perfect, but we did learn from that, and we fell into tradition and what and how maybe close games could be or should be managed, what the book says. The book isn't coaching at Virginia and hasn't spent the past 4 years building, and so we've acknowledged the book, and we're just trying to write our own chapter.
Hey, Coach. Scott
Hey.
Fowler from the Charlotte Observer. Can you give a couple of specific examples about that sort of unconventionality, whether it's going for it more often on fourth down, or what are you speaking of exactly, besides Bryce Perkins?
Bryce Perkins it's hard to eliminate him because most everything goes through him. The number of attempts, or possibly when we go for it on fourth down, possibly the number of either fake punts or fake field goals, possibly the use of personnel or atypical personnel in relation to situations. Really anything we can do that would break a trend that we've either had through the course of the year or what the trend of that moment or situational football might mean, we just simply acknowledge that and try to do the opposite as a starting point rather than the adjustment.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.